noting as well how well actually the march has been received so far, because I think, you know, from an idea that was being discussed kind of the summer of last year really, and then we kind of launched it in February this year, then we've already kind of received a tremendous amount of support. Well, we've had, you know, kind of, on the one hand, national figures such as John McDonnell and Matt Rack, the Firefighters Trade Union General Secretary, speaking at our press conference that we had to launch the march. We've now received the official backing of four national trade unions, sorry, the PCS, the Civil Servants Union, the RMC, Transport Union, BEC2, who deal with the staff who work in television and things like that, and also the TSSA, which is another transport-based trade union. And if you look at the amount of donations of support that we've got in so far, if you include the amount we've actually got in and the amount of pledges that we've got, then we've raised about £10,000 in a relatively short amount of time. And I think that's that's a real indication of a kind of a lot of support and kind of goodwill for the march. Now that work's not over by any stretch of the imagination, because we estimate that it's going to cost us about £26,000 to be able to do the whole march. And there's these details in the pack that some of you will have got of kind of the breakdown of that and why it's important. But there's kind of model motions over there which people can take away to be raising at trade union branches, at students' unions and anti-cuts groups, wherever it's possible to raise some finances, and of course to be raising support as well. It doesn't always have to be linked to the money, although it helps if it is. But I think, as well as obviously the money kind of off the official structures, and then we've received a lot of support from people, via the emails and on the blogs. On the March 26th demonstration, we had a good kind of number of Youth Fight for Jobs members out and kind of campaigning for the demonstration, and raised a lot of money off trade unionists beforehand, trade unionists as part of that, and we've obviously that's work that's continuing as well. So we'll be having a big kind of stalls at the Durham Miners Gala, at the Tulpuddle March Festival, kind of really any events that are going on in the run-up to that. And of course a big part of that is the demonstration. Is the coordinated strike action on the 30th of June, where Youth Fight for Jobs does want to have a kind of quite a visible presence, to be supporting the strike action, in defence of pensions, as we went into this morning, but also, explaining to different groups why this action is important, why everybody needs to be united behind it, and also explaining that Jarrow March is yet another step in that whole idea of linking together, because I think that we want to be, with the march itself, obviously we want to be kind of building to that, but also, there are a number of issues which we've discussed this morning that really Youth Fight for Jobs can and should be campaigning on now. And so to be taking up those issues, to be building, to be bringing together local groups and organising. And I think to kind of go on to the march itself, what we want to do is we really want that to be seen as like a month, 5 weeks of action on the question of youth unemployment. So on the one hand, obviously, where the march is going through, then we're really aiming to have like a demonstration, a protest, a rally, a meeting, a gig, something really to kind of mark it and to kind of explain why we're marching, and also to be kind of raising awareness of the march and to be involving people in the local areas, kind of at all stages of the demonstration. And so, for example, we've already got in Coventry, then they've booked a venue which kind of is a 700 capacity venue for gig kind of on the evening and kind of speeches and things like that. But also, you know, in the Leeds and then the anti-cuts campaign there is organising a rally in the area, and we'll be organising accommodation and things like that. And I think one of the things to be discussing this afternoon, to be discussing, taken away as well, is the idea of kind of organising local committees to bring together the people who are interested in supporting the march. So, for example, I think we've received 5 different individuals in Harrogate who have said, I support the march, I want to get involved in organising it, you know, I can offer accommodation, all these different things. And so, you know, there's the basis of the committee, and I'm sure that there's quite a lot of other areas where there's potential to get that going, to be organising those events where they haven't already. But of course, the kind of two kind of bookends of the march are really, in a way, some of the most important actions of the demonstration as a whole. And in Jarrow, we obviously want to have quite a big protest to be involving, you know, a lot of people from the area, and it'd be obviously easier for people in Scotland, in Manchester, to get along to that than perhaps to get down to London. And so we want to have that as quite a significant event. But I think for London, on the 5th of November when we arrive in London, we do want that to be, again, another kind of big event, and especially for those areas where youth fight for jobs, you know, for those areas where the march isn't going through, because unfortunately we couldn't cover the whole country in 5 weeks, but you know, there are a lot of areas where the march isn't going through, where people want to get involved, and so really there to see the march as a kind of as 5 weeks of action, and you know, kind of building for it, but then also really of getting people along to a demonstration in central London, and to really kind of make the point. And we've already booked Trafalgar Square for the kind of closing rally of that march, and you know, we want to start organising transport to that and kind of getting people along, getting people involved in that. Because what we want to do for the march, obviously, Youth Fight for Jobs is primarily a campaign about youth unemployment, you know, it's calling for jobs. That's not just all that it is about, it's really about the future for young people. So we're campaigning for jobs for young people, we're also campaigning for apprenticeships, for the right to go to education, if that's what you want to do, and obviously with the attacks in higher education, but also in colleges, and the attacks on adult education, and that's going to be an important part of the march itself. And I think there will be a variety of other things going on at the same time, and obviously we've got to try and link in with that. And the first week of the march quite happily coincides with the PCSU Members Network week of action that they have every year. It's very successful, and so, you know, to link in with events that are going on then. But I think given the scale of attacks, then there is undoubtedly going to be kind of various protests, and hopefully there'll be kind of coordinated strike action involving Unite and other trade unions, which obviously we will have to be, or we'll be attending picket lines on that day wherever we are, and you know, supporting it and organising the march around that. But I think that we want the march really to be kind of bringing together all of these different groups, if you like. So kind of young trade unionists in the PCS, people who are in a workplace who aren't organised, you know, for whatever reason. Unemployed young people, we want to be getting students involved, the developing kind of anti-cuts groups, and I think, you know, like I said, some of those are already organising events for the march, and there's a lot of potential to be linking those in with the march itself. But I think the kind of final thing is, well, final area is the people who are actually doing the march themselves. We want to have about 50 people on the march kind of at any one time. Now that's, I say at any one time because obviously there are going to be a variety of different circumstances that people are in I know some people have already booked like a week off work to be taking part in the march, and obviously if you're unemployed, and then that might mean that you're more able to do the march, but it might also mean that you might get a job interview during the course of the march, and obviously we would be looking at organising transport back for people to be able to do job interviews, to be able to sign on, so that obviously it doesn't have effects on you receiving benefits. And so on the march itself, we have what's pretty much a finalised route. There are one or two areas where there's still a few details that need to be ironed out, but this is by and large what we're going to do, and we've started having some discussions with the police about all of that, about facilitating all of that, and various other people who may be involved during the kind of legal side of that. During the course of the march as well, we are going to have a minibus, really, that will be able to, so you're not having to carry around all your clothes on your back during the course of the entire march. But so people who are kind of doing the march, we are going to be providing you with a number of things. First thing is we'll be buying shoes for everybody, kind of proper kind of walking shoes for people doing the march. The sooner that you signed up, then the better, really, because it's better if they're kind of slightly worn in, and obviously we need to know your shoe size and all these kind of practical details. So all of that we'll need to sort out. And we'll also be buying waterproofs, because it hasn't escaped our knowledge that the march is happening in October, November. It might be a bit grim. So that all of that will be sorted. And we're also going to be buying T-shirts, kind of as like commemorative things as well. But obviously, people who are doing the march will be getting one of those for free, and people who aren't doing the march will be able to buy one at one of our exciting events on the course of the march for a very reasonable fee. We'll also be looking at providing people with a certain amount of kind of living allowance during the course of the march. Now, at the minute, the way that we've set that, we've budgeted in £5 per day per marcher. But we are going to ask people, especially kind of people in work, if they can, donate some of that back into the kind of general fund so that we can raise that up a little bit. I think us in a number of areas we will be getting like food laid on and things like that. So that you won't have to be surviving off that, just that kind of £5 by itself. But hopefully we'll be able to bump that up a little bit. And then obviously the big thing is the accommodation for the demonstration itself. And so in most areas, then we will be staying with supporters of the demonstration, or we're also looking into hiring like church halls and things like that. But also in areas where the trade union movement has buildings. So, for example, I know we've got Durham on our it's the third stop, and there is quite a big building owned by the National Union of Miners, which we're hoping to be able to stay in, and kind of things like that. So really to try and keep the costs down. We have got an emergency fund, if necessary, to be able to book B&Bs for I think 5 nights. But obviously, really every kind of penny counts, so we do want to try and avoid using that if at all possible. But just to reassure people that nobody will end up kind of spending a night on the street if the worst comes to the worst, So I think really those are kind of some of the main points. I mean, I would say as well to people who are considering doing the march that most days you're talking about marching 10 miles, possibly up to 15 in some instances, and so then being of a reasonable level of fitness is going to be kind of necessary, because probably you could do we walk 10 miles kind of off the bat one day, but if you're talking about doing it for an entire week, or if you're talking about doing it for 5 weeks, then that's going to get very tiring. And so, you know, I am really encouraging people to get in training.